Closer to Vishnu, sir. You want to influence him, that he will give next time like that. That's it, right?
It will be double next time. Yes.
CMD Sri Rajesh Sharma, Dr. Banyan, who has taken over as CMD of Petronet, and Dr. Tarun Chakravarti, entire board of IP, leadership of Dr. Ramarao, and the legacy that Mr. Shankar.
So glad that Subir Raha, ONG Subir Raha Chair of PE on corporate governance is officially instituted now. On this note, let me now take this opportunity to welcome Shri Shiv Kumar, the guest of honor, to address the gathering.
Dr. P. Ramarao, President of IPE, Shri R. Bandyopadhyay, Secretary Government of India, Shri P. K. Vishnoi, CMD RINL, Dr. Tarun Chakravarti from ONGC, Dr. Lawrence, Dr. S. Bashir, and Dr. R. K. Mishra. At the outset, I would like to thank IPE for giving me an opportunity to speak to you on a very important subject, which is corporate governance. The concept of corporate governance, which emerged as a response to corporate failures and widespread dissatisfaction with the way many corporates function, has become one of the wide and deep discussions across the globe recently. It primarily hinges on complete transparency, integrity, and accountability of the management. There is also an increasing greater focus on investor protection and public interest. Corporate governance is concerned with the values, vision, and visibility. It is about the value orientation of the organization, ethical norms for its performance, the direction of development and social accomplishment of the organization, and the visibility of its performance and practices. Having said that the corporate governance is something of recent origin or concern, actually corporate governance has always been an important issue. It was as much important in the time of King Ashoka or King Akbar. Today it is important, and tomorrow also it will be more important. Only probably the level will change. Like earlier the kings were concerned, today corporates are concerned. And people are greatly concerned with the corporates because corporates have become an inherent part of our society. What corporates do greatly impacts us. What happened in the financial world in US market actually impacted the entire world. The prices underwent tremendously because of something that happened in the corporate world. But tomorrow, probably each individual's life will have to have the same values which we talk of for corporates today. Times are changing, it will keep changing, and the same way things will happen. But certain basic principles will always remain important. They will always remain important, like transparency, being ethical, and keeping in mind the interest of all the stakeholders. But what is even more important is the interest of society at large. No corporate can think of surviving in today's world, or any time for that matter, if the interest of society is not kept in mind, and for that quality of product and services becomes so important. Of course, the interest of investors have to be safeguarded in any situation. State Bank of India, to which I belong, is an example. We are there for 200 years, more than 200 years, and we have survived and we continue to survive because we are a process-driven organization. It does not run at the whim and fancy of any individual. We have been able to create a brand which is unmatched in regard to stability and trust in the financial world in India and probably the world over, for which the banking concerns have been well addressed by Basel under first, second and third prescriptions. Our supervisors, Reserve Bank of India, have been concerned in this regard in a very big way. There are certain purposes for corporate good governance which we follow at SBI also, and today with you, a proper system consisting of clearly defined and adequate structure of roles, authority and responsibility, vision, principles and norms which indicate development path, normative considerations and guidelines and norms for performance, and finally, a proper system for guiding, monitoring, reporting and control. While I leave the details of corporate governance to the experts on the panel and the discussions that will take place during the next 2 days, I would like to reiterate that corporate governance indeed has assumed vital role and significance due to globalization and liberalization. With the opening of economy, and to be in line with WTO requirements if the Indian corporates have to survive and succeed amidst increasing competitive growth globally. It can only be through transparency in operations, and that way transparency becomes actually the key word of functioning for today's corporates. The excellence in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of return, in terms of product and service, in terms of return to promoters, and in terms of social responsibilities towards society and people cannot be achieved without practicing good corporate governance. I am happy IPA has organized this program, and I am also happy that I am part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor R.K. Mishra will now share a few words and welcome Shri Vishnu.
I said we are extremely grateful that you could find time to come over and join us here. I will just go to our basic MOU, and you will find there that Dr. Pamanand Prasad, who was advisor to SAIL, was one of the signatories of the MOU of IP. So I think your presence gives us a very great strength, and your interest in this program will be valued. I would also say that we are grateful to you for giving us an opportunity to mentor us by giving us the training programs on international level training of the board in RINL, and also accepting IPE students for recruitment in RINL. Thank you very much.
At this juncture, we are happy to have the book Corporate Governance Beyond Boundaries be released by Shri P.K. Bishnoi, CMD, RINL. I request the dignitaries on the dais to join the release as well.
We belong to you.
May I take this opportunity to invite Shri P.K. Bishnoi to address the gathering.
Shri Bandhopadhyay, Secretary Government of India, Dr. P. Rama Rao, President IPE and President of this morning session, Shri Shiv Kumar has just left, gave an excellent exposure on corporate governance, Dr. Tarun Chakravarti, Dr. Sharif Al-Sabar, Professor Stuart Lawrence, and our own Dr. R.K. Mishra. First of all, I would like to compliment Dr. Mishra and IPE for organizing this conference on corporate governance. It certainly has been very apt because the kind of value systems in society and in the corporate world that we are seeing in the television and newspaper every day in, day out, I think it is essential that we have this message sent out more often and much deeper. It is also very apt that the conference is being held at Hyderabad, which a couple of years ago had seen one of the worst form of non-governance in the corporate sector, leading to the greatest demise of the corporation. Both the things are very, very apt. I must also say that Dr. Mishra has set a governance on time also very well, which is a very transparent system of chit coming and some allotted time has been given. So I'll try and stick to that. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several eminent scholars, professors and great speakers who are present here, who will be talking to you about corporate governance. I am really no one to talk on the corporate governance except that I try and practice as much as I can what they have us to do. Therefore, I really won't take much of your time to talk about that except possibly try and whet your appetite to the technological knowledge feast that you're going to have later today. I thought this is a good occasion. We shouldn't forget our history. We shouldn't forget the past. We shouldn't forget the genesis of how corporate governance came about and what some of those stewards said at that point in time. Mr. Shivakumar reminded me, and I really thank him, that it really started from Emperor Akbar and King Ashoka. I must admit I didn't do that research to have brought that aspect of what they said and what they did, and I didn't want to sort of speak to you without doing my homework. I have really a little bit prepared, and I have been in business since the category committee came, so let me take you through a little bit of what they said. Basically, they said to whet your appetite to prepare yourself for what is to follow later. See, we are all aware that in the United Kingdom on the 1st December 1992, this category committee report was published and hit the world. They have very simply defined, and sometimes simple sentences are very complex, as to what corporate governance is all about. They said, the system by which companies are directed and controlled. If you go a little deeper, and maybe I'll quote something what Sir Adrian Cadbury said at that time, talking about the scope of corporate governance. And I quote, corporate governance is concerned with holding the balance between economic and social goals and between individual and communal goals. The governance framework is there to encourage the efficient use of resources and equally to require accountability for the stewardship of those resources. The aim is to align as nearly as possible the interest of individuals, corporates and society. It also subsequently said, the foundation of any structure of corporate governance is disclosure. Openness is the basis of all public confidence in the corporate system, and funds will flow to those centers of economic activity that inspire trust. How true it is today, and we should never forget that. As we all know, this report, that is the Category Committee report, became a benchmark and positioned the corporate boards in the center stage of its system of governance and emphasized the importance of independent non-executive directors while highlighting the role of audit committee for their oversight responsibilities of the company's financial performance. Category committee also had emphasized two other things, which in India, in the public sector, has not yet been followed, but possibly some very few private sectors are doing it, is more prevalent in Europe. Separating the role of the chairman and the chief executive officer in the board. And they had also emphasized to follow code of best practices. I think 5-6 years later, the governments of 30 OECD countries issued their principles and guidelines on corporate governance in the year 1998. And Germany, in like manner, came out with its Berlin Initiative Group's Code of Corporate Governance in the year 2000. OECD had emphasized to refresh your memory. OECD had emphasized on protect the rights of shareholders, recognize the rights of stakeholders, timely and accurate disclosure, responsibility of the board. Despite all that was happening in the world, in US, I think it happened in 9/11 when several aircraft were flying in the territory and they were not aware as to how many aircraft will crash where. Enron happened, Philadelphia happened, WorldCom happened, all this in after 1998 and before 2002, when the United States also woke up and they promulgated Sarbanes-Oxley Act, following various of these corporate disasters, which I just named a few, where the unprofessional conduct of audit firms like Arthur Henderson was highlighted and which went like a wildfire all over the world. And this company, as you know, disappeared from the map. Our country was not lagging too far behind. In India, the Confederation of Indian Industry came out with this desirable corporate governance, a code, in the year 1998. The first formal articulation on the subject by the Indian industry, while SEBI released its Kumar Mangalam Birla report in the year 2000, following it with a mechanism for implementation of several of its major recommendations through the listing agreements between companies and SEBI. That was a bad company itself. Then came SEBI's report by Narayan Murthy of Infosys on corporate governance in the year 2003, made recommendations to further strengthen and tighten good governance, which was much needed. Corporate legislation from the Government of India, we have Shri Bandapadiya, Secretary Government of India, who will possibly be talking more about that, share with you some of the benefits of corporate governance that I thought one could share. These are very obvious, but many obvious things should be reminded. Like in the US, they keep telling, I love you, so I think the benefit of corporate governance should also be emphasized. Good corporate governance ensures corporate success and economic growth. There are no doubts about it. Strong corporate governance maintains investor confidence. As a result, which company can raise capital efficiently and effectively. Certainly, you put the money where you have the trust and confidence. It lowers the capital cost. As you know, capital cost has got two components. One is the debt, other is the equity, and equity is the beta, which is the fluctuation of the company's share with respect to the market. The beta is better, possibly in a company where corporate governance is more stricter, and SBI is left, but I'm sure they will tell you, if you have greater standards of corporate governance, you get debt at cheaper cost. There is obviously a positive impact on share price. Corporate governance provides proper inducement to the owners as well as managers to achieve objectives that are in the interest of shareholders and organizations, because they are more focused on doing business rather than managing or putting things under the carpet. Good corporate governance also minimizes wastages, corruption, risks, and mismanagement. It helps in brand formation and development. You certainly can think of many organizations around the world who follow corporate governance, and their brand, the company's brand, and the product brands are very well known and command a better price and acceptance. It also ensures the organization is managed in a manner that fits the best interest of all, to say the least. And let me once again thank Professor Mishra and IPE for giving me this opportunity to hear many other learned people and to learn and become a little more wiser. And I thank you all for listening to this.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request Professor R.K. Mishra to share a few words and welcome Shri Bandapadiya, IAS.
We have been receiving the guidance and support of Mr. Bandapadiya for the last 5 years. He involved IP in the formulation of guidelines on corporate governance, implementing guidelines on corporate social responsibility. In fact, he is a person who believes in disruptive thinking. He believes in breakthrough thinking. And during his tenure as Secretary Department of Public Enterprise, he transformed the Department of Public Enterprise. And from there now, Mr. Bandyopadhyay is the Department, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And the work Mr. Bandyopadhyay has been doing has attracted the attention not only of people in our country, but several countries abroad, national and international organizations. I thought that this would be the best opportunity for us to learn a bit about that. In fact, he was in London at the invitation of the Prince, and Prince himself wrote, the Prince of Wales would be delighted if you are able to support the initiative by participating as a member of the International Integrated Reporting Committee. The next meeting of the committee will be in Beijing in 2011. And I understand that the contribution that Bandyopadhyay have made there was phenomenal, and it was accolades from several countries of the world. Mr. Bandyopadhyay is one person who believes in uniting people, in uniting institutions which are generating knowledge. During the last 3 years, what could not be done during the last 50 years, he has done in 3 years. He has brought the Institute of Chartered Accountants, the Institute of Cost Accountants, the Institute of Company Secretaries, and several other institutes at one place. And let me also, I think, take this opportunity of thanking profusely that he has admitted IPE in the National Foundation for Corporate Governance, which is the highest foundation in the country. And from academic institutions, only 3 IIMs are members, and IPE might be, I think, the 4th member. And I said, we are very grateful to you for giving your good office and giving us that opportunity. Mr. Bandyopadhyay now is introducing new systems of accounting all over the country. We were laggards, we were lagging behind, and now from concept and convention to accounting, we are now shifted. Whole world is shifting now to IFRS, International Financial Reporting System. India was a laggard. We thought we can't do it in 2021, but with Mr. Bandyopadhyay, I think, with his stake with 15 lakh companies in the country, he is there with his stake, and he is ensuring that we come on board by 2012 on IFRS. Recently, he was there with the International Federation of Accountants, that was in October 2010, and there the President of the International Federation of Accountants, he writes, on behalf of the International Federation of Accountants, I would like to thank you for the excellent presentation you provided at the IFAC UNCTAD conference, Corporate Governance in the Wake of the Financial Crisis. We have received considerable positive feedback from the conference, and I would like to thank you for serving on our premier panel linking governance, strategy and sustainability. In fact, Mr. Bandyopadhyay is now the face of our country to external organizations, United Nations, ADB, World Bank. You think of any organization, it's Mr. Bandyopadhyay who is espousing the cause of a strong corporate governance and putting the best face of India anywhere in the world. I think we can definitely say that as a leader, he is taking along with him all those who are interested individually and institutionally to work in that area. He is one secretary who is available not only to people in government, but also people who are governed, people who are in academic institutions. He is promoting research in this area far and wide. So we are extremely grateful to you for taking IPO on board. I know that today also we have a meeting with the minister, and you have deferred the meeting by a couple of hours so that you could be with us. We are extremely grateful to you. And in your absence, you could have imagined what would have happened to us. Thank you.
We will now hear from Shri Bandyopadhyay, IAS, Secretary.
Respected Dr. Ramarao, Dr. R.K. Mishra, Director IPE, Professor Stuart Lawrence, Dr. Sharif El Sawa, Dr. Turul Chakrabarti, C.C. Kumar, who has left now, and my good friend P.K. Vaishnav, CMD RINL, friends from the institutions, friends from the corporate sector, particularly the public enterprises, and friends from the media, and ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure to be here in Hyderabad. Anyway, the weather is so nice here, coming out from the cold of Delhi is always a welcome thing. And talking to persons like you who have been working in the various intellectual fields. It is always a pleasure, and also it starts us to take up some more action, more activities in the government. Now, I have a prepared speech, I should say well-prepared speech, and I leave it with Dr. Mishra. So if he feels like, he can circulate it tomorrow. I'll speak on certain things after hearing to all our experts. Incidentally, I must also tell you that I have never attended an inauguration function which is about 2.5 hours time. Inauguration functions normally is 45 minutes to 1 hour, and then followed by tea, and then the technical session starts. But what the clever persons like Dr. Mishra has done, he has combined inaugurations with the technical session and made it 2.5 hours. So, what I try to do, I'll put certain things in perspective. What is happening in the country, what is happening in other parts of the world, and how we are looking at the whole scenario. I think it will be much more helpful and maybe more useful for all of you. Now, in the country, you see, we are a developing country. We are a fast developing country. So, what we are trying to do, we have taken a motto in the ministry that corporate growth is a must. We must not hinder the corporate growth. However, the regulations should also be there. We can't think of a situation where there are no regulations, it is only self-regulated. Maybe after 50 years or 100 years, it will be like that. Everything will be self-regulated. But as on today, we require some regulations. Now, what type of regulations should be those? That is the fundamental issue before us, before the government, before the society as a whole. We say that corporate growth will enlighten regulations. Now, what do you mean by enlightened regulations? When you talk about enlightened regulations, what is the meaning there? Is it an empty sound? Is it just a phrase? Or there is something behind it? What we have defined in the ministry, in the government, is that whenever we will revisit any law, any regulations, any code, any idea, we will like to consult the maximum number of stakeholders. We'll take their views, we'll put it on our website, we'll collect, analyze whatever views are coming from the stakeholders. Some may be downright criticism. We welcome that. And after taking into consideration all the views, the government of India will come out with some sort of a report, some sort of a law, some sort of code, some sort of regulations, wherever it is needed. That is how we have been proceeding, and we have been proceeding accordingly. The other thing is, yes, corporate sector must grow. But what type of growth it will be? In a country like ours, where there is 1.2 billion people now, where there are 45 to 50% people who need to be helped, who require the attention of the country, of the government, of the persons who are able to help them, what type of growth it will be? We said the corporate sector with inclusive growth. That is our second model. Now, what do we mean by inclusive growth? That is again a challenge, a fundamental issue for us. In Europe, when they talk about the corporate sector, they say in the corporate we give the tax to the government and let the government take care of the other thing. It's fine. So that's a good argument. There's nothing against that. But the fact remains that we have our industrial revolution started much later. Historically, the Western countries have got much more time to develop the society. to develop the system, develop the infrastructure, develop the mentality of the people, develop the educational system. Now here is the situation where the corporate sector has a role to play or not. We believe, and again as I said, we believe after consultations with the entire corporate sector that yes, corporate sector has a role to play. And our lawmakers, the MPs, they also accept that yes, corporate sector has a role to play. So this is how we have been working on this basis of the two models. Now as you know, the entire corporate sector, and when I say